Hi, I'm Andy Clark with Trikke Tampa. Today we're going to show you how to assemble the Trikke T7 Convertible, also known as the Trikke T7 Fitness. Alright, so we have our front structure, our handlebars, our right trailing arm, our left trailing arm. Brake cables are already fed through and attached. We have our fork assembly, and we have our 3 7-inch polyurethane loops. Now, you're going to need some tools for doing this. There are some wrenches supplied in your owner's packet. They're factory provided Allen wrenches. If you have some longer ones, it might be a little bit easier, but these will work for you. Anyway, inside the owner's packet, you've got your main axle set. So we'll go ahead and pull that out. This is your main axle set. This is what's going to tie the trailing arms to the cambering system on the trike. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull these brake cables out of your trailing arms and just set them to the side because they're going to get in your way, and we'll show you how to reinstall them when we're finishing up the assembly. So just pull the cable out. Leave this part in your trailing arm. Do not pull it out. And just set your cables off to the side. Now, what we're going to do is put the right trailing arm on. This is your front structure. This is the very front of the trike. This is the rider side. This is the front of the trike. You'll know that by the label being on the front structure of it. So we're going to lay this on the side. We're going to take the bolt out of the yoke. This is the yoke. And by the way, when you unpack it, it'll be turned vertically like this. You can simply turn it with your hand. And also notice there are 2 washers on here. You have an outer washer which has a small hole, and then you have an inner washer that has a large hole. We'll put the inner washer back in there, and these are concave, by the way. Okay, so looking at the trike, we're going to put the right trailing arm on first. We're going to look at the legs, and you can kind of tell which one's the right trailing arm. And let me get this turned like this to where the front structure is going to be somewhat perpendicular to the trailing arm. So go ahead and get that started on there. Go ahead and lay it down. Let's take our main axle set. If I have to get 2 wrenches, they're 5 millimeters. Break your main axle set apart with your wrenches. Now I'm moving kind of fast just to keep this video kind of short, so if you need to pause at some point and get caught up, definitely do that. Okay, on the main axle set there are, here I come, there are 2 washers with it. They're each going to be on the very outside like this. So we'll go ahead and get this one started. We're going to feed it down through the trailing arm and then into the front structure, the mount on the front structure, and just push it in with your hand. Should go fairly easy. You might have to put a little pressure on it. You can take your wrench and kind of work it on in like that. Now we will take the camber bolt, this bolt and washer that we took out a while ago, and we're going to go ahead and thread it in. Just by finger, just go in 3 or 4 turns just to get it into place. Now let's flip your trike over. Good work position here. 5 millimeters. Go ahead and take this bolt out of the yoke, and our inner one's still there. Now we're going to take the left trailing arm, and you can probably go ahead and come up a little bit higher, Eddie. We're going to take the left trailing arm, and now we're just going to start, we're going to get it lined up. Now the trick is getting this axle to come up through this Teflon bushing. There are bushings inside here. There's 4 of them across this main axle set. So we're going to line this hole up with the yoke, this hole up with the main axle set, and we have to kind of bring them in together. It's a little tricky, but, and then you can see they're going to push down together. Okay, so we've got it in so far. Now we're going to take the other end of the main axle bolt and the washer. We're going to go ahead and get it started. Now you want to make sure you get this pushed down far enough to where we can get a few threads on this when we're threading it in to go ahead and pull it up the rest of the way. So we'll get that on. Now make sure your washer's lined up. And you can see we're going on down with it. All right, so I can only go so tight. And we'll finish tightening that up in just a second because the other side, actually the whole axle is spinning. We'll go ahead and get the yoke camber bolt in. Now with this bolt, don't over tighten it. You can strip it out. Be careful, that's just an alloy aluminum, so you can strip it out fairly easy. So just snug it up, that's all it needs to be. Okay, so now we're going to set the trike upright. You can see we've got both trailing arms. Now this isn't tight yet. The main axle is not tight. So what we're going to do is come in 5 millimeters on each side. Now we're going to finish tightening it up. Let me get myself in a position here. All right, so I'm going to anchor it on one side and then start. Should actually be tightening on the head of the bolt, which would be on this side. So just snug that up real good. So our other trailing arm cambering bolt still needs tightened up. So I'm going to come in here and we're going to go ahead and get it tightened up. We showed tightening up that one on the other side. Remember, don't over tighten this one, just snug it up. You know, it just doesn't have to be super, super tight. Just snug it up. This one, the main axle set, you know, like I said, you just want to make sure you want to fill it bottom out on the axle. So right there, it's bottomed out, and I've got it as tight as I can get it. Now, the easy part comes. We're going to put the handlebars on. Now, putting your handlebars on, you can go ahead and pan down here. Make sure that this button is facing away from the rider. Very important when you're putting these handlebars on. Here are your handlebars. Your brake levers are factory set up in a position that's probably going to be pretty close to right. And you want your brake levers in front of the trike. So we'll go ahead and set them up on the stem post. And then we're going to take our stem cap. Usually aesthetically the trike label is going to be where if you're standing on the trike you'll be able to read it. Very minor detail there. But it is a detail. So let's go ahead and get our screws started on the stem cap. Now we're going to kind of roughly position the handlebars. And they will have a little bit of a lean forward to them. So if you're looking right here, they're going to lean forward maybe 20 to 30 degrees. And that helps the rider to maintain weight on the front wheel while they're riding. So we're just going to snug them up a little bit. I'm actually just going to go ahead and tighten them all the way. If I need to make adjustments later, I can break them loose. So we'll go ahead and just snug them up real good so that the handlebars won't slip. Now, let's take the brake cables that we removed and let's go ahead and put those back in. Now, because these were in the box, you might have a little kink in it. Just take the wire and just kind of straighten it out as best as you can, because it helps that if it does get into the housing that it slides a lot easier without any kinks. And let's go ahead and start feeding it in. And then when we get to the back, you can lay your trike down. And when you get to the back, you're going to feed the cable. You can see the cable guide here. And we're just going to feed the cable through this cable guide and just go ahead and pull it through. We'll adjust it all out in a little bit. So let's go ahead and do your other brake cable while the trike's laying on its side. We've got a little bend in it here. We want to work that out. You don't want any bends in your brake cable, at least as minimal as possible. Okay, so now we're going to feed it through the other trailing arm cable housing. And we're going to come down here and get it through the brake guide. Kind of pull that up and then push the cable through. Now you may need to pull your housing to where it's up in this recess right here. Come over here, Eddie. So whenever I started pushing this in, this housing was back like this. You might have to come up to the front and push your housing in and kind of feed it to where it goes all the way up into this cable stay. So you can see the wire rope that I've already pushed through, and now I'm just going to pull it up all the way. And we'll come back and make adjustments on that in a little bit. Tell you what, we'll go ahead and get them above the axle so we don't set it on there. So, come around here, Eddie. So Eddie's going to kind of be bouncing back and forth with the camera. So what we're going to do, we're now going to set our cable housings into the cable stays on the front structure. The right trailing arm is coming down like this. You want to take that cable housing and go to the left side. Now, old way we used to cross cables at the top. Nowadays we're doing it at the bottom, okay? So take your right side over to the left, and then we're going to cross it back over on the top. Go ahead and put the cable into the top cable stay. Our handlebars are facing forward. And since this is the right brake that we're feeding through, even though we put it on the left side, now we're going to take our cable and we're going to come around this direction, and now we're on the right brake. So, if you'll come around this side, Eddie. What we have to do now is line up on this barrel adjuster for the brake cable. We have to line the holes up. Let me see if I can raise this up so Eddie can show you. And then we're going to line it up like that. And now we're going to take the brake lever, open it up. Let's come over back on the other side, Eddie. We're going to squeeze the brake lever, drop that in, close it. Now we've got the slot that we were just showing you where we can come in and slide it in like this, just like that. Now go ahead and turn that barrel adjuster so now your cable won't come out. Okay, so we roughly have our brake set up there. Now I'm going to come back here and just kind of pull all the slack out. Come back over here, Eddie. Over here. Okay, you can see our cable housing popped out. Just drop it back in. Okay, and then I'm going to pull on the cable down here just to take the slack out. So you get to see it again. Now we're going to do the left trailing arm. So we're going to bring the cable and housing around this way. We're going to cross the left over to the right cable stay. Push that housing up in. You can pull this, drop it into the upper cable housing. Now we're going to simply wrap it around this way. We're going to line up the slots. Come around here, Eddie. We're going to line up the slots on our barrel adjuster. We're going to open the brake lever. I'm going to pull a little bit of the cable out since it's not anchored at the other end. So you can see, as you saw in the video previously on the other side, there's a hole that you're going to drop this end of the cable housing into. This is called the MTB brake cable. So we're just going to drop it into the brake lever. There's a slot right there. Line these slots up. Okay, now we're going to turn this barrel adjuster back in all the way. Now none of the slots are lined up, so your cable's not going to come out. So, come back, make sure everything's still in place. And all I'm doing is just pulling on the cable end that we fed through to the back of the trike. So, we're almost there. Now we're getting ready to move on to putting the wheels on as well as the front fork.